Some people don't enter your life to love you. They come to conquer you. They make you feel special only to slowly suffocate your spirit in silence. They don't destroy with chaos. They control with deadly charm and poison-laced words. These are narcissists. And for a long time you may have believed they were invincible, untouchable. But here's the truth. Beneath that mask of pride lies a fragile ego made of glass, terrified of one thing: they can never control the truth. This video isn't a takedown. It's a mirror. Together, we're going to uncover 4 things that break a narcissist from the inside out. Not weapons of revenge, but signs of awakening. Because sometimes you don't need to scream to shatter their world. You just need to walk away with peace and silence, and that alone brings their illusion crashing down. If you've ever been manipulated, if you've ever lost yourself in their psychological games, stay with us until the very end. Because what you'll hear today is more than just insight. It's a blueprint for freedom. Hit subscribe now, because this isn't just another video. It's the moment you stop surviving and start reclaiming your power. A narcissist might appear calm on the outside. They sit with a composed posture, speak fluently, and carry themselves as if everything is under control. But in reality, what begins to crack their foundation isn't your loud reaction. It's the quiet shift in your behavior. When you stop replying right away, when you no longer apologize for their unreasonable anger, or when you simply go silent, that's when the unraveling begins. What seems like a small act of self-respect to you feels like a threat to them. That's because a narcissist doesn't define their worth through love or genuine connection. They define it through manipulation and control. Relationships are not about bonding for them, they're about power. And when that power is even slightly threatened, their reaction becomes clear. They either become unusually sweet, or they flip into anger and blame. In the first scenario, they suddenly start doing all the things that once made you feel loved, bringing your favorite food, reminiscing about good times, acting, caring out of nowhere. But make no mistake, this isn't affection, it's strategy. They're testing to see if they still have access to your emotions. If that doesn't work, they shift into accusations and emotional pressure. They'll say you've changed, that you're cold, that maybe you're seeing someone else. These statements are not meant to understand you, they're meant to make you feel guilty. They'll do whatever it takes to pull you back into your old role, vulnerable, impressionable, and easy to manipulate. Because when you stop reacting the way they're used to, panic sets in. And when you start setting boundaries, saying no, demanding respect, or simply taking space for yourself, they don't understand it, and they certainly don't accept it. To them, it's betrayal, not growth. What's crucial to understand is this: losing control doesn't just make them angry, it disorients them. They don't know who they are without power over others. Their entire sense of self is built on controlling emotions, dominating situations, and staying at the center of every narrative. So when you go silent, they lose their mirror. When you remain calm, they lose their influence. And when you stop playing the game, ends not because you won, but because you walked away. Eventually, you'll realize you don't have to defeat them. You don't have to seek revenge or prove anything. You just have to stop belonging to them. And that choice alone, to take back your peace, to no longer react, to walk away with clarity, is what truly breaks the narcissist. Not with explosions, but with a silence they can't bear. And when they can no longer control you, they'll try to control the last thing they have left: how others see them. Because if personal power has slipped from their hands, at least they still have their image, the mask they've spent their entire life preserving. But what happens when even that begins to crumble? If losing control is the first crack in their carefully constructed facade, then being publicly exposed is the blow that shatters their false identity. Narcissists aren't afraid of criticism. They're afraid of being seen for who they truly are. Narcissists live through image. They need to be admired. They need to be perceived as kind, talented, successful, moral. No matter how rotten things are on the inside, they maintain an immaculate exterior. That's why the public, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, even social media becomes their constant stage. And when even a sliver of truth slips out, no matter how small they feel, as though they've been stripped bare in front of a crowd, you don't have to insult them. You don't have to expose the details. Sometimes just one honest sentence about your experience, calm, clear, and without bitterness, is enough to make them panic. Because narcissists don't fear negative reactions. They fear losing control of the narrative. When they're no longer the one telling the story, when others start asking questions, noticing patterns, or connecting the dots, the illusion they've built begins to collapse piece by piece. How do they respond? Often instantly. They try to distort the truth. They might say, "You're making things up, that you're unstable, vindictive, or just seeking attention." They'll do whatever it takes to discredit you because once you have a voice, they lose the lead role. And what's even more terrifying for them is this truth doesn't have to be shouted. It just needs to be quietly affirmed by others who've also been manipulated. A knowing nod. Someone saying, "I went through the same thing." An anonymous post that doesn't name them, but everyone knows. To the narcissist, that's no longer a rumor, it's a nightmare come to life. Remember, they've spent their entire life avoiding shame. But when the truth goes public, shame stops being just an emotion. It becomes a direct blow to the core of their false self. Because in that moment, they can no longer control how they're perceived. They can't manipulate perception. They can't blur the truth with tactics. And here's what truly sends them spiraling. They're being seen. Not seen as flawed human beings, but as frauds, manipulators, and threats. Not because you revealed everything they did, but because you stopped covering for them, and with that, they lost the stage. To them, public exposure isn't just an embarrassing moment. It's the collapse of the entire internal world they built on illusion. And they know that once people begin to see the truth, they can't rebuild their image the same way again. Like an actor who's been unmasked in real life every time they return to the stage, the audience sees them differently, no matter how well they perform. That is the tragedy of living a lie. They're not afraid of losing you. They're terrified of losing the role they played in your life. And when the world begins to see them not through a carefully filtered lens, but with clarity and doubt, that polished outer shell, no matter how long it's been maintained, starts to crack. Yet what hurts them the most doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from someone they once deemed insignificant. Because to a narcissist, truth coming from someone they looked down on is the most devastating blow of all. Narcissists don't just believe they're special, they believe they're above others. In their internally ranked world, people are categorized by usefulness. Those who submit, admire, or elevate their image are kept close. Those who question, challenge, or push back are dismissed. To them, you're not an independent person with your own worth. You're a role they assigned in a story they're directing. And that's why when you, the one they once underestimated, manipulated, discarded, or saw as beneath them, dare to reject them, dare to walk away quietly, dare to no longer need them, it doesn't just hurt them. It shakes the entire foundation of the delusional system they've built around themselves. Others may leave them, and they can still hold their head high. But when you, the person they thought would never have the courage to say enough and mean it, choose not to return, that is unthinkable to their ego. Not because they love you, but because you broke the rules. The rule that you must always stay beneath them. The rule that you must always need them. The rule that you do not have the right to walk away from the role they gave you. Rejecting them in silence, without drama, without revenge, without explanation, is the most piercing strike to a narcissist's pride. They can't explain it. They can't control it. And they spiral into a storm of unanswerable questions. Why them? How did I lose control? Why didn't my old tricks work? And from anger, they shift into obsession. They'll start watching you, not out of longing, but to answer one question. Are you suffering without me? They want to know who you're with, how happy you seem, how successful you've become, whether you're laughing too often, whether you ever speak their name. Because in their mind, you are not allowed to thrive without them. And if you really are okay, if you're happy at peace and no longer emotionally reactive to them, that realization triggers an internal collapse. It proves you're not as weak as they once believed. It shows them they are not the center of the universe everyone orbits around. From that point, a chain reaction begins. They might seek someone new to prove they're still desirable. They'll flaunt a new relationship, highlight achievements, post curated compliments from others. But deep down, they know the one person whose gaze they once dismissed, yours, is no longer looking their way. And that drives them mad. With narcissists, you don't have to insult them to hurt them. All you have to do is be free and no longer view them as important. That alone is enough to make them unravel from the inside out. And when they finally realize that you've truly stepped out of their world without warning, without drama, without ever looking back, something far more terrifying than rejection begins to unfold. You go silent. No more responses. No more explanations. No more trying to understand them or make them understand you. You no longer play any role, not even the role of the forgiving one. At that point, they no longer exist in your reality. And for a narcissist, that is the most painful punishment imaginable. You see, a narcissist doesn't need your love. They need your reaction. Anger, pain, begging, even explosions. As long as they're still the center of your emotional world, they feel powerful. But when you stop, when you ignore them as if they never existed, the illusion of control they've clung to begins to evaporate with every second of silence. For a normal person, being ignored might be frustrating or disappointing. But for a narcissist, being ignored is an existential crisis. They don't know who they are if no one is reflecting them back. They don't know if they still matter without someone confirming it. They survive on admiration, attention, emotional reaction. So when no one is reacting anymore, they begin to crumble silently, violently, without warning. When you stop replying to their messages, when you stop mentioning them, when you stop caring how they're doing, when you laugh for reasons that have nothing to do with them, when you rebuild your life with no role for them in it. All of that is a silent verdict. No judge, no jury, just you, someone who used to play along in their script, standing up and walking off stage. And they know in that moment they can't pull you back anymore. That's the truth they cannot bear. They're no longer important, no longer influential, no longer in control, no longer the center of anyone's universe. And the scariest part? You're not angry, you're not bitter, you're not even bad-mouthing them. You're just done. And that indifference to them is more brutal than any accusation. Because at least when you're angry, they still exist in your mind. But when you're silent, they disappear from your life in a way they can't control, can't fix, and can't stop. To a narcissist, losing control is dangerous. Being exposed is humiliating. Being rejected is insulting. But being ignored is death. Not a physical death, but the death of the illusion. The one thing they've always depended on to feel real. And when you no longer look at them, when you no longer assign them any role in your life, they become no one. Just a shadow no one notices. A voice no one hears. A person with no power in a world that has moved on without them. And here's the part no one talks about. When a narcissist is no longer seen, no longer feared, no longer chased, they begin to implode, quietly, internally, without spectacle. You won't always witness it, but it happens. Not because they miss you as a person, but because they've lost their mirror, their audience, their stage. They may pretend they're fine. They'll post pictures, make new friends, start a new relationship, smile wider, talk louder. But inside, they're replaying every moment you didn't react, every message you didn't answer, every smile of yours that had nothing to do with them. They wonder why it didn't work this time, why their usual weapons, guilt, charm, rage, seduction failed to pull you back in. And the truth is, they can't accept that you're living without them. Not just surviving, but thriving. That's the ultimate blow. Because in their world, they were the best thing that ever happened to you. The one you couldn't live without. The source of your identity, your confidence, your emotional gravity. But now you've chosen silence, you've chosen peace, and you've chosen yourself. That's something a narcissist can never understand, that silence can be louder than screams, that peace can be stronger than confrontation, that walking away without explanation is the final declaration of power. Because it's not about revenge, it's about release. You're no longer trying to make them understand. You're no longer trying to heal the unhealable. You're no longer trying to fix someone who never wanted to be fixed. You've let go of the illusion that it was ever your job to save them. And that is what truly breaks them. Not your anger, not your revenge, but the fact that you've moved on, without noise, without apology, without needing them to see it. You no longer look for closure. You are the closure. You are the ending they never thought you'd write, the silence they never prepared for, the freedom they never expected you'd choose. And now, while they scramble to reclaim their image, their control, their relevance, you are walking forward, lighter, freer, whole. Because in the end, you don't win by defeating the narcissist. You win by no longer playing their game. And when you stop playing the game, ends, and they lose everything they were never meant to keep. And in the void you left behind, no accusations, no wreckage, no trace, they begin to face what they've been running from their entire life themselves. With no one left to manipulate, they suddenly find themselves lost in their own inner world. With no one left to blame, they spiral in the chaos they use to project onto others. And with no one left to control, they're forced to confront a question they've never dared to ask. If I can't control anyone, then who am I? For a healthy person, solitude can be a space for healing. But for a narcissist, isolation is a sentence. Because they don't know how to exist without admiration, without tension, without emotional feedback. They have no inner life. Everything they are exists externally in image, in validation, in control. When all of that vanishes, they do what they've always done best, reinvent themselves, not from remorse, but from the fear of being forgotten. They might change their appearance, claim they've had a breakthrough, start inspiring others, speak openly about their own trauma, and even pretend to be humble. But underneath it all, the motive never changes to regain the stage, to reclaim the audience. And sometimes the most dangerous narcissist isn't the one who's angry, but the one who manipulates through the role of the transformed. Because if you're not fully awake, you might think, maybe this time it's real, but the truth is, they're not coming back out of love. They're coming back to test you. Are you still susceptible? Do you still carry emotions they can feed on? Are you still keeping a part of your heart available for them? And if the answer is no, if you've truly let go, truly become indifferent, truly found peace, then to them this isn't closure. It's despair. Because they've lost the last thing tethering them to this world's psychological power. At that point, they're no longer angry. They're empty. No more clever strategies. No more charming manipulation. Only confusion, disorientation, and a silent fear they can't name. No one believes them anymore. And that right there is the harshest verdict a narcissist can ever face: to be seen through, to be forgotten, and to have no one left to perform for. Because when the lights go out, the curtain falls, and no one stays in the audience. The only thing left for the narcissist is emptiness. Not the kind of emptiness you feel after losing something meaningful, but a deeper kind, the emptiness of realizing you never had anything real to begin with. No true identity, no true connection, no true emotions. Only fragments borrowed from others, mirrored through the gaze of others, and maintained through the control of others. And when those people leave, when you leave, everything fades with them. There's no role left to perform, no audience left to impress, no one to manipulate, compare, to dominate, or draw into their games. Only them alone with themselves, and for many narcissists, that is the deepest fear of all. Because the truth is, there's nothing really there. No depth, no core, no foundation. Just a shell of a person filled with curated memories, weaponized words, and mismatched pieces from people they never truly connected with. When there's no one left to control, they don't know what to do with their own thoughts. When there's no one to intimidate, they don't know where to dump their insecurity. When there's no one to chase or trap, they don't know how to feel valuable. And in those moments, the emptiness stops being silence. It becomes a scream no one can hear. Some narcissists try to fill that void with new relationships, hollow achievements, or fresh performances. But when no one believes anymore, when no one admires, when no one reacts, the mask loses its purpose. They can be in the middle of a crowd and still feel like they're slowly disappearing. No one chases, no one fights, no one cries. There's just no one who cares anymore. And for a narcissist, not being hated is worse than being hated. Because at least when someone hates them, they still exist in that person's mind. But when you truly let go, when you turn away, when you live your life without ever mentioning their name, they feel like they've died, and no one mourned them. And while the narcissist dissolves into the silence, they can no longer manipulate you, emerge quietly from the ruins, changed, yes, but not broken. You carry the weight of what you've survived, not as a burden, but as a mark of your awakening. You no longer define yourself by what you endured, but by who you chose to become after it. There are no fireworks, no grand speeches, just small moments that now belong fully to you. You sleep without checking your phone. You laugh without watching for someone's reaction. You cry without shame. You wake up with your own name on your lips, not theirs. The world didn't stop when they left, and now you know it never should have. Because your life is not a stage. You were never meant to be a supporting role in someone else's delusion. You were always meant to live fully, freely, and without being defined by another person's need for control. And here's the most powerful truth: you didn't need revenge. You didn't need them to admit anything. You didn't need them to change. You just needed to get out, and you did. And now your peace is louder than their chaos. Your silence speaks more than their shouting ever could. And your healing, the kind that doesn't need to be posted, proven, or praised, is the quiet revolution they never saw coming. You are no longer the one who bends. You are no longer the one who waits. You are no longer the one who wonders, was it me? Now you know. It was them. And you are free. In the end, victory doesn't come from making the narcissist pay. It comes from the simple, powerful act of choosing to walk away with your dignity and reclaim your life. You don't need to win a battle because you've already done what they never expected. You continued living without them. And if you're somewhere in the middle of that journey, still doubting, still hurting, still facing long nights in silence, Please remember this. Peace doesn't come all at once, but it is coming with every breath, every boundary, every quiet step you take back toward yourself. No one can take the light from someone who walked through the dark and came out whole. And if today, all you've managed to do is keep getting back up, then you're already doing better than you think. If this video spoke to you, consider subscribing to this channel to continue your journey of healing, clarity, and emotional freedom with us. Because here you won't be judged for loving the wrong person, you'll simply be reminded that your awakening is the proof that you're no longer trapped by it. And sometimes that reminder is all it takes to keep moving forward. You're not alone. You're coming back, and you deserve to be truly free.